Yes, proceed.
Right, so I can see it's being recorded. So, of course, this is another moment with the Azure Nigerian group, which is basically aimed at spreading the knowledge in Azure across Nigerians. So basically, that's what it's about. And we have our host, Mr. CJ Opala, who will be taking us through basically everything we need to know on today's topic. Today's topic is a very interesting one. I actually love it because, in contrast to yesterday's topics, which is networking, storage is used by everyone, just like networking is. I mean, we all use storage on our phones, and we have all at one point or another used cloud storage. Even just uploading online, you're uploading to the cloud. So cloud storage is present everywhere. And basically, understanding how to administer the storage is a very important part of um, of every organization that uses storage. So we have Mr. Opala taking us through basically how to administer storage on Azure. Azure is a cloud service provider, and they provide services for storage as well. And it's actually one of the most used resources they have on the cloud. Storage is always used on the cloud. It's expensive also, but basically, it's pay as you go. And we have Mr. Okwala taking us through everything about administering the storage on the cloud. It's going to be as explanatory as possible. He has always been doing that. And of course, if you have any questions, because this topic is quite technical, you would notice a lot of technicalities in it. If you have questions about it or about a particular subject, please ask by using the chat buttons. You could chat. You could ask questions when it gets to the time for questions. You could write your questions down and ask them when it gets to that point. I'll be here answering other questions. They would answer all the other technical questions because frankly, it's much more in-depth than I am in this thing. So of course, he would be ready to answer these technical questions. So Mr. CJ, thank you so much for being here with us today. And of course, Mr. CJ is based in the Netherlands. He's going to be taking us through everything we need to do today. He's a Microsoft MVP also. Why did I forget to mention that? Mr. CJ is a Microsoft MVP. I've been looking forward to getting that. And yeah, he is at the top chain of it. So please let us know if you have any questions. And we'll be here for you. Mr. CJ, please take over, sir. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. You're very funny. Yeah, guys, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here again for another section of the Azure Nigeria user group. Today we'll be talking about, I'll be looking to the Azure storage. And yesterday we discussed about the network and also administering network. And then today we'll be talking about the storage account. So for instance, you have an application you set up, so like a visual machine. You have done the setting of the visual machine, you have set up the network. Now you want a storage to be linked up with the visual machine. So that's what we'll cover today. So we'll look at different kinds of storage accounts, which with different use cases and how to configure one, when to use one, the kinds of storage accounts, as well as replication, if you want to achieve like redundancy, all those kind of things with the storage account configuration. So let's get started. So firstly, we'll look at storage accounts, different kinds of it. So storage account kinds. So we have storage account kind and also storage account type. We'll look at blob storage, which is one of the popularly used kind of storage accounts in Azure. And we'll look at securing a storage account. Further, we'll look at Azure Files and Azure File Sync. So Azure Files and Azure File Sync is a way to share like data, say like directories within Azure, as well as from on-prem to the Azure cloud. And then we'll look at a lab on how to create and manage a storage account in Azure. So firstly, we'll look at configuring an Azure storage account. We'll look at the implementing a storage account. We'll take a look at the Azure storage services, which kind of storage offerings does Microsoft offer. We'll look at the storage account kinds, and then we'll look at the replication options that comes with the storage account. So strategies you can use for replication. Say, for instance, you have a storage account stored in a given data center or zone, and you want to make sure that it can be replicated or it can be accessed. Say, for instance, something happened with one data center where the storage account is stored or created or housed. We look at storage accounts, how to access a storage account. For instance, we're going to use like shared access signature, all these kind of things. We'll look at how to secure a storage account's endpoints. And then we'll look at a demonstration on how to secure a storage endpoint. And then we'll look at a summary and resources. So a storage account is just a service that that is used to store like say messages, tables, or other types of information, as well as files. It's quite durable. It's quite scalable, and well managed, and you can access it in different ways and forms. So it can be used, for instance, you store storage, you can use for storage for visual machine, for like structured data and unstructured data. And within Microsoft Azure Cloud, we have two kinds of tiers. So we have the standard tier and the premium tier. So both has different throughputs based on the use case. So in Azure Cloud, we have 4 kinds of storage services. So firstly, we have the containers, Azure containers. So these are highly scalable for storing objects for like text and binary data. And we have the Azure tables. So this is for storing like structured non-relational data. So your data could be like entities, name, emails, photo ID, and date, and so forth. And then we have the Azure queues, and this is just a messaging store for reliable messaging between Azure application components. So like images, or image downloads, or image resize. And then lastly, we have the Azure Files. So Azure Files is the managed file share for cloud or on-premises deployments. So in determining the storage account kinds, we'll look at what are the use case. So for scenarios where you have like blob, file, queue, table, and data lake storage needs, it's recommended to use the standard general purpose V2. For the case where you need like a blob scenarios with high transaction rates, so a lot of data movements or scenario that you have that use small objects or require consistent constantly low storage latency. You can use the premium block blobs. And then for enterprise or high performance file share applications, you use the premium file shares. For the page blob scenarios with high performance, premium high performance, we use the premium page blobs. So we look at the replication strategies. So we have low redundant storage. We have zero redundant storage. Then we have the dual redundant storage. We have the read access dual redundant storage. So with the low with the LRS, we have the like 3 replicas on one region. And this protects against like disk, node, rack failures. And there is kind of the rights acknowledged when all replicas are committed. And this is superior to dual parity RAID. So the local redundant storage, this is kind of the easily widely used option than the zone redundant storage. So what that means is that in a single region, you have 3 replicas. So the 3 replicas of your data, same data, duplicated 3 times in one region. But then in the zone redundant storage, you have also 3 replicas, but then in 3 zones in one region. So what that means, for instance, within a local within a data center. So you have in a data center you have different zones, and then zones, and then in different zones you have regions. So let's say you have your data in data center of Microsoft that is in west in Amsterdam. And in Amsterdam, there are different data centers. So that's a zone. And then your data will be spread across 3 data centers in 3 zones. So you have Amsterdam West or Amsterdam South, depending on how the data center is set up and grouped. So the need for this is it protects against disk, node, rack, and zone failure. So when one zone fails, so remember, in a zone you have different data centers. So you have local data storage. So let's say one zone fails, you can easily have your data in another zone. And it is a synchronous write to all 3 zones. So you can access your data in all these 3 zones. That is in one region. So with multiple regions, so the dual redundant storage, you have like 6 replicas in 2 regions and 3 per region. And this protects against major regional disasters. And there is kind of asynchronous copy to the secondary. And then lastly, we have the read access dual redundant storage. So you have this offering, so the dual redundant storage offering plus a read access to a secondary environment. So the need for this, it separates secondary endpoints. There's a recovery point objective, delay to secondary that can be queried. We also have the dual zone redundant storage. So you have like 6 replicas. So So you have 3+1 zone, 2 regions. And also this protects against a disk failure, node, rack, zone, and region failures. And then we have also the read access dual zone redundant storage. So you have the benefit of this, the GZRS plus the read access to secondary environment. So next thing is, how do you access your storage? So for instance, for a container storage, you have a kind of a unique URL for your storage. Likewise, for the table service kind of storage, you have a unique URL. But then the different here is just see the URL. So you have the URL and then the name of this kind of storage table, in this case. So for table services. And then for queue services, you have the URL with a queue. And then with the file storages, you have the file. But then you can still customize your URL address to your own custom domain name. So just in the case of blobs.contoso.com. So it's securing storage endpoints. So we can use like visual networks, firewalls to do that. And now, so what's the value of this? The firewall visual net is to restrict access to a storage account, say from a specific subnet on a visual network or a public IPs. So when you set up the storage account, you have to configure firewalls, put like firewalls rules, and configure visual network, and then do like a whitelisting and give to deny access or those kind of things, or give access. That way your storage account is well secured. So you can enable endpoint status. So it's enabled for a resource group and address range. So it's a private IP range of a subnet, the case subnet 01. So, but then the most important thing that the visual networks and the subnet must exist in the same Azure region or region pair as the storage accounts. So what that means is that the storage accounts must be in the same Azure region or region pair with, say, the visual networks and also the subnets. So further, we'll look at securing a storage account. We'll look at how to create a storage account, how to upload a file to the storage account, and how to create like a subnet service endpoints. Further, we'll look at securing the storage to the service endpoints, and then we'll test the storage endpoint. So firstly, we'll look at configuring a blob storage. So we'll look at implementing a blob storage. Then we'll create a blob containers, and then we create blob access tiers, and then we add blob lifecycle management rules, and then we can determine the replication of the blob object. And we'll look at demonstration of the blob storage and look at the summary. So implementing blob storage. So blob storage stores unstructured data in the cloud. It can also store any type of text or binary data. It's also referred to as the object storage. The common uses are like serving images or documents correctly to a browser, storing files for distributed access, streaming video and audio, storing data for backlog and restore disaster recovery. And you have for the storage accounts, say in the case the production and storage account in a production environment, you have the container. So the container houses the pictures and movies, and then the blob. You can have like a files in JPG formats and video files in AVA formats. So in creating the blob containers, the blob container, all blobs must be in a container. So you give a container name. You determine the access level, so whether public or private. And with the accounts has unlimited containers. So containers itself can have unlimited blobs. So for private blobs, there's no anonymous access. Blob access, anonymous public read access for blobs only. So in creating blob access tiers, so you have like hot tier, cool tier, and archive tier. So hot tier means it's readily available. So optimized for frequent access and uses, but that comes with a price. So it's really available. The dehydration is very fast. So you have cool tier, which is for storing large amounts of data that is infrequently used as test and stored for at least 30 days. You have also archive tier, so it is like data you don't often use, and this data that can stay up to will remain like active for at least 180 days, and this is the cheapest way of storage. But then, if you want to make use of this data, you need to wait several hours for it to be rehydrated. So by rehydrated means to be made available, readily available for you to use right away. So the good thing is that you can choose within these options at any time, within these access tiers at any time as you wish, to save costs and optimize your throughput. So in managing your blob storage lifecycle, you can add management rules. So you can add a rule, say for instance, how many days it needs to be available, or whether you have to move it to cold storage or move to archive storage or delete the blob. So let's say you don't need the blobs, you can have it to be deleted at the end of the life cycle. So you can then apply the rules to the filtered parts in the storage accounts, just as demonstrated. So in essence, the lifecycle management uses your rules to automatically move blobs to cooler tier or to delete them. So determining blob object replication. So you can do that asynchronously to any other region, and this minimizes latency for read requests. It also increases efficiency for compute workloads, optimizes data distribution, and also optimizes costs. So you have like region 1 and region 2. So you have the source account, you have the destination account. In the source container, you have like blob 1 and blob 2. So these TST files, I have destination account, blob 1 and blob 2. And I have source container, blob 3 and 4, and blob 3 and 4. So we look at blob storage. So create a container, uploading a blob storage and downloading blob storage. But we look at configuring storage security. So what it means, how to secure your storage accounts. So here we look at reviewing your storage security strategies, creating shared access signatures to secure your storage accounts, identifying URL and shared access signature parameters, demonstration, look at the SaaS portal. We determine the storage service inscription. We would also determine the storage service inscription, and then we create customer managed keys. Then we'll apply storage security best practices, and then we'll look at a summary. So we look at review storage security strategy. So storage, we look at the storage service inscription. So how to inscript your data, your storage services. How to authenticate it with Azure AD or RBAC, role-based access control. We will look at client-side inscription with HTTPS and SMB 3.0 for data in transit. We'll look at disk inscription in Azure. Look at how to delegate access for shared access signatures. Look at encrypted signature strings on so shared keys, and then look at anonymous access to containers and blobs. So in creating a shared access signature, first we have to look at the signing method. So firstly, the shared access signature provides kind of a dedicated access to resources. So it only give us access to the client without sharing your storage account keys. So the SaaS now delegates access to resources in one or more of the storage services. And then the service SaaS delegate access to this resource in just one of the storage services. So you determine the signing method, account key or user dedication key, signing key, you have the signing key, and then you have the permission, so a read or write permission. Yeah, determine the start and expiry date, the start date and the expiry date, and then you can allow for the IP address, set up IP address to be on it, or you can then choose which protocol that have to go with, whether HTTPS or HTTP. And then you click on generate SaaS token on a URL. So identify URL and SaaS parameters. So SaaS is just shared access, is just a signed URL that points to one or more storage resources. So this consists of a storage resource URL and a SaaS token. So this is SaaS token. So in the SaaS token, what you see is the storage resource. So the storage resource, so that is the storage resource. The storage resource and the SaaS token. So from here is the SaaS token. So we'll look at the demonstration in an Azure portal about the shared access signature. So we'll look at how to create a SaaS at the service level, look at creating a SaaS at the account level. So determine storage service encryption. So that protects your data for security and compliance. Automatically encrypt and decrypt your data. Encrypted through 2056 bits is encryption. It's enabled for all new and existing storage accounts, cannot be disabled. It's transparent to users. So likewise, you can make use of on your own keys. So the storage service encryption protects your data at rest, definitely. So this is creating your customer managed keys. So you can have your own key, or you can also have like a key vault that manages your encryption keys. Keyboard could be Azure keyboard or third-party keyboard where you put your keys with your secrets. So you can also create your own encryption key and store them in a keyboard, or use Azure Keyboard API to generate encryption keys. So custom keys, the custom keys give you more flexibility and control. So best practices for storage for your storage security is in securing your storage account. So firstly, you would use HTTPS to create or distribute distribute a SaaS a shared access signature. Reference stored access policies where possible. You use near-term expiration time on an ad hoc SaaS. You also use storage analytics to monitor your application. So you have to be careful also on the start time of the SaaS token, the SaaS you're creating. And then you need to be specific with the kind of the resource to be accessed. And then you need to take into account that your account will be built for any usage. And then the validation of the data written using the SaaS. There are also more choices in securing your storage account beyond using SaaS. Next, we'll look at configuring Azure Files and File Sync. So Azure Files is a way to share files between two environments. So you could share like directories or content of flat files. Say, for instance, company directly, you could share it across one environment or one entity. You can share between the cloud environment and the on-premise environment. So we look at files, comparing files to blobs. I will manage file shares. We'll create file share snapshots. I'll look at demonstration of file shares. We implement Azure File Sync. Then we'll look at identifying the Azure File Sync. And then further, we identify Azure File Sync components. And then looking at deploy File Sync, configure storage with tools, and then a summary. So Azure Files is just an SMB interface that has client libraries, and it's a REST interface that allows access from anywhere to stored files. So when can you use this? If you're doing like a lift and shift on application to cloud, if you have stored shared data across multiple virtual machines, or you store development and your debugging tools that need to be accessed from many virtual machines. For Azure blobs, so this Azure blob just basically client libraries and a REST interface that allows unstructured data to be stored and accessed at massive scale in block blobs. So this supports streaming and random access scenarios, access application data from anywhere. So managing file shares. So you consider file share quotas. So for Windows OS, you have to ensure port 445 is open. And for Linux, you have to mount the drive. For Mac OS, you have to mount the drive. So for a secure transfer that is required is SMB 3.0 encryption. So as demonstrated, so to connect the file share from Windows, so you just choose the kind of a full authentication method and run the PowerShell command. So this PowerShell command from a normal PowerShell terminal. So from a drive, let it go Z, and then you choose the storage account key. So you can also create file share snapshots. So for instance, you want to take a snapshot of the data at the moment. So when, and then that gives you kind of the date, the snapshot will take, and the time. So a snapshot gives you kind of a point in time of the situation of the file. And it's also a read-only copy of your data. So look at file share, how to create and then upload a file, managing snapshots, creating a file share using PowerShell, and mounting a file share using PowerShell. So you could have kind of a central way in your organization for your file share in Azure files. So by keeping it flexibility, performance, and compatibility of an Azure on-premises file server. So you can use do like lift and shift when you're doing like a lift and shift, branch and office backups, backup and disaster recovery, and file archiving. So you can also determine file sync components. So the storage sync service is the top level resource. The register server object represents a trust relationship between your server and the storage sync services. So you have the storage sync services with a name. You have a region. I have a redundancy coupled with it. So you have, in this case, can choose between local redundant storage or zone redundant storage. And this is your storage accounts. And then your on-premises server. So in the Windows, it's Windows based. And there's the file path, the path to the files. I have the server folders. So in setting up a file sync, first you need to deploy the storage sync service in Azure environment. So you give a name. You choose a subscription, Azure subscription. You choose a resource group and a location. Then you have to prepare the Windows server. And then most especially the file sync agent. So the file sync syncs the data from the both ends. And then you have to register the Windows server. So you're looking at configuring storage with tools. So you can use like Azure Storage Explorer. You can also use the import and export services. So you create an import and export job, and then you can put the data, or you can use AZ copy. AZ copy is just a command used in copying, extracting data. So Azure Storage Explorer is just an environment used like getting data, different types of data like blob containers, table storage. Or you can use it and create import export job, and then you can put the data. So you define the subscription, define the resource group, you give a name and a type. So the type could be import into Azure or export from Azure. and then you have to give a destination of the region. This is optional, so this is just what we showed above. So look at the installing Storage Explorer, connecting to Azure subscription, attaching an Azure storage account, and generating a SaaS connection string for the account you want to share. Then attach a storage account by using a SaaS connection string. Also, this is also optional. So if you want to use AZ copy, so you need to first install the AZ copy tool, explore the help. You can use for help. You can use explore option for help, to find help, and then you can also look at downloading a blob from blob storage to the system, and then finally how to upload files to Azure blob storage. So lastly, we're in the lab. So this lab is something you can do for yourself. I will share the slides and the links to use. So this lab is to manage Azure storage. So first, the scenario is that you need to evaluate the use of Azure storage for storing files residing in currently in an on-premises data stores. So while many of these files are not accessed frequently, there are some exceptions. So you would like to minimize cost of storage by placing less frequently accessed files in lower price storage tiers. You also plan to explore different protection mechanisms that Azure Storage offers, including network access, authentication, authorization, and replication. Finally, you want to determine to what extent Azure File Service might be suitable for hosting your on-premise file share. So first task is to provision the lab environment. Task 2 is to create and configure Azure storage accounts. Task 3 is to manage blob storage. Task 4 is to manage authentication and authorization for Azure storage. And task 5 is to create and configure an Azure file shares. And task 6 is manage network access for Azure storage. So this is the architecture diagram. So you have for task 1 to provision the lab environment. So you have the resource group environment where you create the storage accounts. So you have the VNet, and you have the subnet. And with the subnet, and there's a virtual machine. You have the virtual machine, you have the subnet, and you have the VNet, and all resides in a resource group. And task 2 is to create and configure the Azure storage accounts. So this is the storage account in a resource group. And then task 3 is to manage blob storage. So this is the blob storage. So you have the blob, so you have the container, created a container, and the blob storage is inside it. In this case, like a license. Task 4 is to manage authentication and authorization for the Azure storage. So that's task 4. So you have authentication. So you have kind of a license where you can do your authorization and authentication to access who needs to access it. So kind of a protection to check identity access management. So you have a browser-based window, a private window browser to access that in form of a license. So task 5, you have create and configure an Azure file shares. So that's it, the Azure file shares version. And task 6 is to manage network access for the Azure storage. So the managing network access, so you have already a VNet, and we have the firewall, storage account firewall, to protect access to the storage accounts. So with the firewall, you create the firewall rules, network rules as well to protect it. So that's the end of the presentation. Let me know if there's any question.
Thank you very much, Mr. CJ. Actually, I came in again at the end. I was in traffic. I was enjoying it. All through while you were speaking, I was just enjoying it, but I was on the road. And it's nice to hear you go through all of this topic all over again. I'm really sorry. It's it's actually very nice. You know, some of us can't do without tuning in. We just have to be there most times. We
Yeah.
just have to be there. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Please, as you all know, Azure storage is extremely important, and it's one of those things that you just can't skip, no matter which angle you are coming through in the cloud, networking engineer, administration. Even if you are doing the fundamentals, you are going to meet storage in there. So, of course, the meeting was quite educative, and thank you very much, Mr. CJ. Thank you once again. It was really nice of you to open our eyes to this. And please, if you have any questions, of course, I've said technical questions should please move to Mr. CJ. I'm not really a technical question kind of person. And any other questions, if you have your questions in the chat, I will be there to answer the questions. At this point in time, anyone with a question can please ask. And if you are going to ask about the availability of the recordings will be made available, of course. And we hope to make this better as time goes on. So we are hoping to make it better, put in a lot of more features that would be quite interesting. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending. Mr. CJ, you know, I highly respect you and these meetings you do for us.
The pleasure to be here, as usual.
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Take care.
Yes, sir.
Bye, guys. It's a pleasure to have you guys again.
Bye, everyone.
Enjoy evening. Bye. Ciao.